الحمد لله رب العالمين الحمد لله ذي الملك والملكوت ذي العزة والجبروت الحمد لله حي قيوم لا ينام عزيز لا يضام قهار لا يرام وأشهد أن لا إله إلا الله وحده لا شريك له وأشهد أن محمدًا عبده ورسوله اللهم صل وسلم وبارك على سيدنا محمد وعلى آله وصحبه وسلم تسليما يا أيها الذين آمنوا اتقوا الله حق تقاته ولا تموتن إلا وأنتم مسلمون. Or you believe, fear Allah as He should be feared and die not except on the state of Islam. And may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala the most merciful bestow upon us the gift to die on the state of Islam. Allahumma ameen ya Rabbil Alameen. Amma ba'd, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says in Surah Al-A'raf, reporting what Musa alayhi salam saying and encouraging and inviting his people, following the threatening of Fir'aun to kill the children and to have the mother to have them to survive, is a way of a tyranny that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala described in the Quran to be the peak of the transgression. Musa alayhi salam said to his people, قال موسى لقومه استعينوا بالله واصبروا إن الأرض لله يورثها من يشاء من عباده والعاقبة للمتقين. Inquire assistance and help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be patient. Indeed, this earth belongs to Allah. He will inherit it its ruling or the empower whom He will subhanahu wa ta'ala, and the end is for sure for the pious one. In this ayah, subhanallah, it has a great instruction when you ponder in it, that Musa alayhi salam said, seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and be patient. Now this is require iman, require presence of the heart, require knowledge of who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But the people of Musa, those who really bothered Musa, hurt Musa, they said, we have been oppressed before you come to us and after you came to us, which is mean like, your guidance, the God that sent you didn't do anything to us. Out of anger, he said, may Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destroy your enemy and give you the ruling on the earth, and He will see how you're going to act. One of the main dalala, instruction in this ayah, is the fact that Musa alayhi salam said to his people to seek help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because when the person is out of refuge from anything, physical thing, from people to help, what he gonna turn to? He's going to turn to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the believers. But the people of Musa, they didn't understand that. They didn't capture that because they do not have the iman. However, in Islam, seeking the isti'ana, it becomes the key of the worship. The Prophet ﷺ said, anything that you want, have it in your heart, inquire help from Allah, and don't be incapable, don't be passive, go ahead and get it. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala making the seeking of the isti'ana to be a prayer that we pray with it every day, and we repeat it every day many times in our salat, in our ruku', in our rak'ah, into Surah Al-Fatiha. إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. Therefore the isti'ana that Musa alayhi salam asking, inquiring, inviting, commanding his people to do it, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala made it to us as a gift from us. Because it is the key of establishing the ubudiyyah, the servitude to Allah. And it is the means for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to accept your dua and answer your dua. Because when you say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ, that is haqiqatan the ubudiyyah, that's the meaning of the worship of Allah, the servitude to Allah, to be submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How you going to do it and translate it into practical way? Only can happen only with the isti'ana, by inquiring assistance from Allah and help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So you will be able to have with the true sound heart and sincerity to ask, oh Allah, guide me to the right path. So the guidance to the right path required these conditions. The Prophet ﷺ was with Jibreel alayhi salam. He heard like a sound, a loud sound above of his head. He looked, and Jibreel alayhi salam, he said, is a gate from the heaven that has been opened for the first time, never opened before, and from which an angel is descending. He never descended before. This is the first time. And the angel greeting them, he said, سلم علينا قال أبشر بنورين آتاكهم الله سبحانه وتعالى. Have the glad tidings or true lights that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is conferring to you, is giving you as a gift. None of the Prophet before you had them. What are these two lights? Surah Al-Fatiha and the end of Surah Al-Baqarah. And the key in Surah Al-Fatiha, as we know, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ. So the isti'ana is that worship in which one will be establishing the true ubudiyyah and link with it how you're going to be firm on the path. Therefore, when you say إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala actually accept your dua, is going to elevate you among those أَنْعَمَ اللَّهُ عَلَيْهِمْ, because you say, oh Allah, guide me to the right path. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the definition of the right path. The path of those upon whom Allah bestowed all your blessing. أَنْعَمْتَ عَلَيْهِمْ. So men hum alladhina an'ama lahum, who are these great people, who are these noble people? قال النبيون والصديقون والشهداء والصالحين. As Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala قال ومن يطع الله ورسوله فأولئك مع الذين أنعم الله عليهم من النبيين والصديقين والشهداء والصالحين وحسن أولئك رفيقا. What a great companionship to have with these noble and great people. Therefore, the key of the ubudiyyah is the isti'ana, is to know how you ask help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, or you making the asking of the help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to be part of your practical, way of implementing the ubudiyyah. Now, to understand it further, we need to know that the isti'ana, asking for help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is associated and is tied to what we call al-istita'atu. Al-istita'ah is the ability to do. And there's two types of istita'ah, two types of ability. The first ability is the one that is needed and required before the action. And the second one that accompanying the action. Two. So the first one, al-istita'atu qabla al-fi'l, istita'ah before the action, and istita'atun ma'a al-fi'l, and istita'atun accompanying the action. The istita'ah qabla al-fi'l is upon which, or depends, the capacity, depends on one's capacity, the empowerment, and the soundness of, the senses of the limbs, and upon which Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala established the Sharia. Allah la yukallifu nafsan illa wus'aha. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will not burden anyone more than they can bear. So it is within the capacity of the human being that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala command you. So the khitab of Allah, the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala depends on your own istita'ah. So this istita'ah before the action. However, this istita'ah has, the true believer, when you reflect on it, is a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Imagine Allah give you the senses, He give you the life, He give you the mind, for you to understand who is your Lord, who created you, so you'll be able to pray to Him and to be glorifying Him and thanking Him. And that is the istita'ah. Without it, you do not know anything. Without it, you'll not be able to pray. Without it, you do not able, subhanAllah, to know the money that is in your head, for what purpose, and what He's linked to the divine, you will not know anything. So that istita'ah is the greatest gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala of the life. Because if Allah give you life and He didn't give you this ability to know Him, to worship Him subhanahu wa ta'ala, then this life will be absurd and will not have any meaning, and it will have with no purpose, will be a life with no purpose. So the istita'ah, that innate istita'ah ability that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave us to be able to know who is Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is the greatest gift. Let's think about it. When you stand to pray, when you go to make wudu, and you still be able to make wudu, and if you are not, you're going to make tayammum, and if you cannot pray standing, you're going to still pray. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, based on your ability, that He will commend in you subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first istita'ah that the believer, true believer, should be grateful for it, and grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala that He gave him the ability to know who is the one who created them subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is the first one. The second one is the istita'ah that accompanying the action. When you're standing to pray, you need that help for Allah to help you to fulfill this prayer. So this istita'ah, this ability to do it, is in need of tawfiq, of facilitation, of a divine facilitation to facilitate it for you, so you'll be able to achieve it, you will be able to perform it, you'll be able to have it, to fulfill it in the way that pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This istita'ah, this type of istita'ah that is requiring tawfiq from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, that where reside and when it's needed the isti'anah. So when you say, Ya Allah, Iyaka asta'een or Iyaka nasta'een, here the isti'anah, you can help, ask your brother to help you. So it's not talking about the isti'anah that it is between us or someone inquire, even, tools to help them do things. But the isti'anah here, how can you fulfill the ubudiyyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, is need of tawfiq, and the tawfiq, it requires the establish the worship of the isti'anah. So when you read in the Quran and Surah Al-Fatiha every day, in every rak'ah, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ وَإِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ إِهْدِنَا. إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِين is the link between the ubudiyyah to implement it and the answering of the dua, إِهْدِنَا. If there is no isti'anah and you will not establish this ibadah of the isti'anah, that you will not be able to practice the ibadah, nor be able to have the dua answering to you. So someone will be lost into between these two, subhanAllah, dua, or these two affirmation of belief. Why? Because he didn't understand, or he's been fully heedless of the meaning of the worship of inquiring help from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Look, in the adhan, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala instructed the believer to say, Hayya al-falah. Come to success. And the Prophet ﷺ taught us to say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. You only go to the success to achieve and perform what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is calling you to do only by Allah's will and Allah's tawfiq. That's why we say, La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. Because you cannot do anything except by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala will, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala help, by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala facilitating for you. Therefore, we find out when you reflect on it that this istita'ah, this isti'anah is the key of the worship, is the key of establishing the servitude to Allah into your entire life. Every step, subhanAllah, when you make the intention and asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for help to wake up for Salatul Fajr, your eyes open before Salatul Fajr. Why? Because sincerely you're asking for the isti'anah. When you ask sincerely for isti'anah, for Allah to help you to have focus in the prayer, you will have focus in that particular prayer. Not of the rest, because of the rest you're being heedless. You didn't even ask about. Maybe you didn't even remember how many rak'ah you have established. So this isti'anah is required as a key of worship, as a key of establishing the practical way of the ubudiyyah, and to have the dua being answered from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to guide you to the right path. And then the right path require also definition. But what is or what are the conditions to fulfill this worship of isti'anah? When you say, إِيَّاكَ نَعْبُدُ إِيَّاكَ نَسْتَعِينُ, what are the conditions? You are now standing and say, Iyaka nasta'een. What should I think about Iyaka nasta'een? Ya Allah, I am inquiring, I'm asking help. Help for what? Help to establish the ubudiyyah, help to worship you, help to help me, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, be closer to you. So it requires two conditions. The first condition is how truthful, how true you are into your submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. The second condition is to love those who Allah bestow upon them His gift, which is being to love what they do, to love how they are, and to be emulating them into their action, because you're going to think, this Allah that He favored with His gift. And this is, subhanAllah, is going to really have a change our concept of life. So, Iyaka nasta'een comes into the center of your worship, and between the way how you are true to your faith and into your submission to Allah, and the other hand, how much you are attached to the people that Allah gives them. Because if someone, his heart is attached to the millionaire, and the heart is attached for those who think they are successful in this worldly life, and he adore them, and he love them, and he follow them, and he like them, then you do not have any relation with those that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow upon them His gift. People, we have our youth now, they love so and so because he's a maker of cars and he's maker things and he's making, billions of dollars. So when you say ihdina sirat al-mustaqim, is not sound. So the first thing, how truthful you are into your ubudiyyah to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. How truthful you are into your submission to Allah when you say, Iyaka na'budu, I only worship you only. I only worship Iyaka. Only you worship you, Ya Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. This is required how truthful you are in your fleeing to Allah when you are in need of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and all the matters of your life. But to summarize in one simple way, which is, dear brother, respected sister, to have adab with Allah. Why we choose the adab? Because it is the sign, it is the emblem, it is the hallmark of the meaning of the isti'an. The hallmark of the meaning of you truly submitting to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What is the adab? Is to show good manners and etiquette with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. It's amazing. Why? Because when you are having adab with Allah, means that you are mindful. You know what you speak. When you speak, you don't want for Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to hear you say something that it might lead to His anger. When you do something, you feel like, Allah is listening to you. So as you are with elders or in the presence of a president or kings, even your action is going to be with veneration, with glorifying, and with talk, with the great manners. So you should do it with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala first. Not you should do it. You are obligated if you truly have a love of Allah and you truly have submission to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So when you are acting with adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, with this mean, it's going to protect your way of ubudiyyah and it will not head you to transgress it and go overboard. Why? Because you will be shy from Allah. You have the sense of modesty, which is actually the foundation of the adab, is the modesty. Into, small, let's say, reflection. The first one, what are the requirements of the adab? The first step of the adab. The first one is to not let your fear go beyond a limit to make you fall into despair. That's really lacking adab, lacking respect, lacking glorification of Allah toward His mercy. Because Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, do not lose hope in my mercy. And someone is like so fearing Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, fearing hellfire, fearing everything to the point that he loses hope. That's su adab. That's a disrespect. The second one, it is your hope. Don't let your high hopes get you to be like feel safe. Said Alhamdulillah, I'm secured the paradise. Our people will be inshallah in Firdaus al-A'la. He said this feeling of security and safe is really kind of excessive in a way that you made yourself to not fearing Allah as a plan. Because whoever who secured himself and feels safe toward Allah's plan, he's like, subhanallah, a loser. That's why Abu Bakr radiyallahu ta'ala anhu, he said, I will never feel safe from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala destiny and plan. He said, even if I put my first step, where I step in paradise, I will not still feel safe because Adam alayhi salam was expelled from paradise. And this is subhanallah, that raja, that high hopes to make a person feeling safe and feeling like, subhanallah, that he's in his hand is the Jannah, everybody else is bad. And this is what turned to corrupt the heart and make us to be arrogant. The third one is the joy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you. The joy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you is either from dunya or either from deen, or you learn something and you feel so happy. And that happiness that you have inside you, it might, subhanallah, drive you to feel like, kind of arrogant and make you feel like you deserve this happiness. This is yours. Like people always hear, they're teaching people how to get happiness, how to have, to be happy and things, and make you like you are to gain it. It's you who gonna attain it, is with your own effort. There is no such a thing. وَوَالَّذِي قَالَ أَضْحَكَ وَأَبْكَى. He's the one who make laugh and you make you, subhanallah, cry. And He's the one who give life and He's the one who give death. So even your joy and this, emotion that we have, you are very emotional beings, subhanallah. The smallest thing can change your mood and make you sad the whole day. And a small thing in your sujood that you ask Allah, He pour it in your heart, make you, subhanAllah, a glowing face. Therefore, this joy that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you, do not make it a joy like the munafiqeen, or joy like Qarun. He feel like he did it. I did it with my own, my own skills, with my own wisdom. No. If Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala give you the joy, and you feel that happiness, be muta'addib, have the manners with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. What will be the manners here with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is to not let the joy make you forget to be thankful to Allah. And on the other hand, do not make the difficulty to make you forget that you need to be patient, because that is decreed from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. These are the requirement, the basic requirement of the adab. Adab with the rahmah, adab with the makr of Allah, adab with the joy to always be grateful to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. When it comes, this adab, its foundation is the haya, is the modesty. And the modesty with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is amazing. The Prophet ﷺ said to his companion, قَالَ اسْتَحْيُوا مِنَ اللَّهِ حَقَّ الْحَيَا. Have a modesty toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, the true one, the one worthy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He said, Ya Rasulullah, we have modesty. Well, alhamdulillah. He said, no, that's not that the modesty I'm talking about. It's not like just simple modesty. And a modesty that comprehensive, that profound, deep, that touch every sense of our being. قال تستحي من الله حق الحياة. قال أن تحفظ الرأس وما وهى والبطن وما حوى وأن تذكر الآخر الموت والبلا وأن إذا أردت الآخرة تذر زينة الدنيا فمن فعل ذلك فقد استحيا من الله حق الحياة. Beautiful. He said, the Prophet ﷺ, the true haya, the true modesty toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, to guard the head and whatever, encompasses. The head, the eyes, the ears. So subhanAllah, it is like adab ma Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in everything you see, in everything you say, in everything you hear. You remember Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is with you. Should they listen to this? Should they listen to this person lying? Should they listen to this gossip? It's haya. وَالْبَطْنَ وَمَا حَوَى. And the button and what is associated with what is the stomach is either what you eat or anything that is associated, the private part and the hand and everything. وَمَا حَوَى. To be, subhanAllah, look at them and dealing with them with a modesty toward Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And to always remember death and the decay, and whoever who loved the akhirah, he will be like renouncing from all the glamour of this dunya. The glamour of this dunya, if it comes to you, you will be happy with it because it's a rahmah of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and you use it in the way that it pleases Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but not to make it to be your dream and your objective. This is, dear brother, respected sister, the true haya. The second part, in very concise words, bi'idhnillah, is to love those who Allah bestow upon them His gift. This is very profound. Why? Because what we love in those Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow upon them His gift and His favor is the way they act, and it's not the way they lived, they living, their surrounding. Because if we think like successful today, like the American dream is someone that be rich. But the Prophet ﷺ was not rich. Ibrahim ﷺ was not rich. Ismail was not rich. Or subhanAllah, except a few. And even Yusuf, when he became at that level, he passed like years and years in the prison. So, the true meaning of al-in'amu, of this favor of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala bestow upon us His favor, is the guidance of the heart. Is the tranquility of the heart, is the sweetness of the iman that you gain from your connection with Allah. That's it. Because if we think, Ya Allah, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم صراط الذين أنعمت, the path of those you have bestowed upon them, your gift, then we have our concept, our images. We draw the images of those who received Allah's favor to be rich, to be this. That's not it. Therefore, when you don't make the dua seeking the true favoring that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala He favored this noble one with, then we are missing our dua. That's why we will not find guidance, because we didn't mean the dua. We didn't mean the supplication, اهدنا الصراط المستقيم. We had our concept, we have our imagination, we have our motivation, we have our dreams that draw for us the meaning of the Sirat al-Mustaqim. And this is, dear brother, respected sister, which is help us. The key, as we said, come back to the isti'ana. And the isti'ana, you'll see it in the way how these noble ones, they were always asking Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And for you to read Surah Al-Anbiya, Surah Al-Anbiya is enough for you to see that etiquette and that adab and that haya of the prophets alayhimus salam in their connection with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Because I finish with this. Because the first key, when we are heedless, we will not be able even to listen. That's the problem. Because al-istita'atu, this ability accompanying the action, is when you want to listen to Quran, if there is no tawfiq from Allah, Allah facilitate for you the listening so it will get to your heart, then we will not comprehend anything. Look, the people of Quraysh, they listen to the Quran, and we do listen to it, but it didn't help them. Why? Because they hated it. They said, don't listen to this Quran. They say they've been arrogant. And look in the end what they've been saying. قالوا لو كنا in hellfire, لو كنا نسمع, or if we used to listen and comprehend and reason, we would not have been here in hellfire. The believer will never say this. If you make the isti'ana today, that istita'a, that ability, that you inquire of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to give you the tawfiq, that facilitation to open your ears, to open your eyes, to illuminate your heart, that's when you're going to have the presence of the heart, which presence of the heart, its sign, its hallmark, is your great manner with Allah. أقول قولي هذا واستغفر الله لي ولكم فاستغفروه الغفور الرحيم. بسم الله وكفى والصلاة والسلام على النبي المصطفى أما بعد. The key of the isti'ana resides in the presence of the heart. Your presence of your heart, its sign, its hallmark, its feature, is your good manner with Allah. The scholar, they say, the good manner with Allah is actually the religion. Look, when you're going to see a person, when you are invited, you're going to put the best of your clothes. You're going to beautify yourself. You're going to clean yourself. When you make wudu, is adab with Allah. Is good manner with Allah. It's respect. When you cover your awrah and you put, and our sister put their hijab, that's adab with Allah. When it comes to your salah and you put your fragrance and you think, قَالَ خُذُوا زِينَتَكُمْ, as the salaf, they used to, beautify themselves when they're going to meet Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That's adab with Allah. So you see, even standing before Allah, the way you stand, the way how you put your hand and looking at your place of your sujood, this is adab with Allah. Don't you see the people, the subject, or people who they stand in front of their king, they don't look at their faces. They're always looking down, except when they call them so they can't speak, and they speak like scared. And you are in front of the king of the kings. That's the adab with Allah. And this adab with Allah, if you maintain it, that's what is going to maintain the presence of your heart. Look at the prophets. I'll just give two examples. Ibrahim alayhi salam, when he was talking and presenting to his people the greatness of his Lord, he said, He's the one who created me and He guided me. And He's the one who feed me and give me to drink. But when he came to sickness, is he going to say, and He's the one who caused me to sick, to be ill? He didn't. Look, the adab. That's why when you have this presence of Allah, how can you feel that your heart is with Allah, is with the adab? He said, and when I fall sick, He's the one, subhanahu wa ta'ala, who cured me. This is the adab. The Al-Khidr, the righteous man with Musa alayhi salam, when he was explaining to him all the facts that Musa alayhi salam could not be, patient over them, he said, when he came to the ship, what he said, قال, and I intended to damage it. قال أما السميع فأردت أن أعيبها. When he had the knowledge from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, why he didn't say, and the Safina, I have been told the inspiration from Allah too damaged. قال أردت, that's adab. But when he came to the orphans, he didn't say, and I want and I willed for them, for these two orphans to grow up. He said, قال وأما الغلامين فأراد ربك. All exclusive to Allah because all is good. This is, dear brother, respected sister, how refined and subhanAllah thorough the way of the adab with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And when we have this in our mind and in our heart, believe me, your life will change. Why? Because with this adab, you're going to have the presence of Allah into your heart, and then you're going to be in the boundaries of the ubudiyyah, and then you know the taste and the need and the requirement of the isti'anah, which is asking help with Allah to help you fulfill everything that you wish to do, inquiring and intending to get close to Him. Allahumma ya arhamar rahimin, a'inna ala dhikrik. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم أعنا على ذكرك وشكرك وحسن عبادتك. اللهم اغفر لنا ذنوبنا أجمعين وتب علينا إنك أنت التواب الرحيم. اللهم ارحم إخواننا في غزة وفلسطين والشام والسودان. اللهم ارحمهم برحمتك. اللهم أنزل عليهم بركاتك. اللهم أنزل عليهم سكينتك. اللهم أنصرهم نصرا مؤزرا. أيدهم بنصرك. اللهم احفظهم بحفظك. اللهم أرفع عنهم الغم يا كريم يا رحمن يا رحيم. اللهم دمر الظالمين المعتدين إنك على كل شيء قدير وبالإجابة جدير. نعم المولى ونعم النصير. وآخر دعوانا أن الحمد لله رب العالمين وأقم الصلاة يرحمكم الله.